Hi. Welcome to the space. My name is Stella Nyanzi. I created this space at midnight in Uganda. I'm an hour behind where I live in Bavaria. And I created the space really because I want to talk about a couple of issues that have arisen in the last few days as a result of some of the things that are happening in the lives of people I know. And I think I also have created this space because this recurrence is not new. It has happened before to me. It has happened before where people think that they have a monopoly over what feminism is. The idea that there is only one type of feminist and there is a pecking hierarchical order within feminism, and particular feminists must tell all the other feminists how to do their feminism, and if one does not meet the standard, therefore one must be punched upon and boxed, is no longer acceptable. And so I set the space really in the spirit of trying to speak for myself as a feminist. I have identified specifically as an African feminist in this space in this hour. And as people congregate, I think I want to start with a poem entitled Feminists in High Heels, which I wrote in prison in 2019, but it was published in 2020. And the poem is called Feminists in High Heels because for me, it represents my thinking at the time about the factions based on class among feminists. So I will read. Feminists in high heels stick their noses in the air and sniff at my dust-covered sneakers. They point their tight breasts at patriarchy and smack at my saggy bust. They push their bottoms outwards as if they never shit. They deem my activism too grounded. And they say, she's too dirty to be one of us. These are feminists in high heels. Feminists in power suits shake their ponytails and ridicule my three-piece chitenzi. They cling onto their briefcases and shun my papyrus chikapu. They stretch forward their manicured hands and sneer at my short-trimmed fingernails. They deem my advocacy too radical. And these feminists in high heels say to me, she's too hot to be one of us. And the third verse of that poem I wrote in prison says, feminists drunk with religion roll their judgmental eyes heavenward and shandaramamamama at my brazenness. They finger their leather-bound scriptures and distance themselves from my activism. They pray and praise and tithe, but keep away from the trenches. They deem my praises too immoral. And these feminists in high heels say, she's too worldly to be one of us. So I read that poem as a starter to this discussion, which I hope we shall have. Maybe we shall not. Maybe I will rant on my own. Because for me, for a very long time, there are feminists in Africa, feminists specifically in Uganda, who have chosen to alienate me. And as I was starting, I self-identified as I self-identify, and I will self-identify until the day I die as a feminist. I'm a feminist. Today, I enter this space as a feminist who is sick and tired of becoming a punching bag of feminists who want to hit at misogynists, they want to hit at the patriarchy, they want to hit at people who abuse women, and instead of doing so, they come at me. They come at me, Stella Nyanzi. I'm a feminist. But these cowardly feminists are punching at me, punching on me, boxing me day and night with their pens and their keyboards, with their mouths. And I'm sick and tired of this. So this space for me is really an appeal, really, to these Ugandan feminists particularly, who think that they have a monopoly over what feminism is and what feminism does and the futures of feminism. Those Ugandan feminists who think we have only one brand of homogeneous, uniform, one type, cookie cutter, one size fits all sort of feminism. This space is created specifically for them and any other person who may want to hear my positions on feminism. I think for me, after a period of thought, I've been reading all the negative criticism, the mockery, the ridicule, the bullying, the insults, the abuses, false accusations, allegations made about me, simply because these cowardly feminists cannot hit at the misogynists or the abusers or other men holding power. They want to hit at these men, but they cannot. And because these men happen to be either my relatives or my friends or my close allies or my lawyer or a neighbor on the street that I live, these Ugandan feminists have turned their punches upon me. They're hitting at me. And I think for me that in the spirit of feminist solidarity, feminist um, um, forthrightness, this space is created for those feminists. So questions have arisen about why. Why is it that I stand in solidarity with men whom some Ugandan feminists hate and are accusing? Today, the topic is around Isaac Semakadde, the current president of Uganda Law Society. Last week, the topic was about Kakwenza Rukirabashaija, who is an exiled writer. Isaac is my lawyer. Kakwenza is a father to children who live on my street. There have been questions about men who are involved in activism, be it political activism, human rights activism, anti-capitalist activism, men who associate closely with me, or men whose lives I featured closely. And instead of these African Ugandan feminists striking out at these men they have a problem with, they have turned their guns at Stella Nyanzi. I listened after the spaces had happened yesterday or the day before. I listened into some spaces because I wasn't either in attendance or because I joined the spaces late. And so I went back to revise and catch up and hear what was being said. And I was shocked that total strangers, people I have never seen, people whose names I see on the timeline, on Twitter, on Facebook, webinars, people also that I've never seen, names I don't even know, took to yelling and screaming about Stella Nyanzi. Why is Stella Nyanzi associating with those men? Why does Stella Nyanzi protect those abusers? Why is Stella Nyanzi doing this? And why is Stella Nyanzi doing that? And I thought, geez, these women haven't even waited for me to come into these spaces, but they're screaming my name. You know, a woman was screaming at the host of a space and saying, don't speak loudly like Stella Nyanzi. Stop shouting like Stella Nyanzi. And I thought, I'm not even in the space. I'm not even in the boxing ring. And this so-called African feminist is punching at me in my absence about issues I knew nothing about. I was preparing a birthday party and birthday celebrations for my children. We have sort of whole day celebrations. I have I have twins. And my center, my focus has been really on ensuring that as my sons enter their 18th year, as they leave childhood and begin adulthood, that they have an opportunity to be celebrated. And I gave this Easter break, I had, sort of said this is going to be reserved really for my twins. I'm going to be a good mother. And then at the end of the whole celebrations, I turned into a Twitter space and I was shocked that these African feminists, people who are supposed to be comrades at arms, they were hitting at me in my absence. I didn't know the issues they were screaming about. I didn't know why I was being judged and condemned in my absence. And I think part of what happened is that I realized this cycle of scapegoating particular individuals. When some feminists cannot reach the misogynists they want to speak to, they will get a scapegoat. And I think part of what I want to do tonight with whoever listens to the space, but also to speak to those who will listen to the space after it's been recorded, I hope I'm recording, that there are issues around feminism in Uganda. I identified these issues in 2019 in prison when I was writing about feminists in high heels. That poem is significant for me because I saw the classism, the division, the antagonisms that are really unnecessary within the feminist movement, specifically in Uganda. I know that a number of Ugandan feminists hate me. I accepted the hatred. I accepted that I'm not going to be similar with other feminists, right? And I can explain why I think that the feminism that I practice is, in fact, perhaps a little strange, a little absurd, a little different to the feminism that is commonplace in Uganda. One of the things that stand out is the moralizing and the morality, the Christian conservative mode of feminism, which is a recognized and respected form of feminism. I think that in Uganda, the women's movement, particularly women who are aligned with the national resistance movement, which I call a dictatorial party, that they have in fact entrenched moralistic, Christian-based, conservative, traditional forms of feminism. And young feminists, middle-aged feminists, also older feminists practice this conservative, Christian-leaning, very moralistic form of feminism. They're welcome to choose that if it works for them, fine. I was raised by a Christian mother who is the daughter to a reverend who is deceased. I went to Gaza High School. I went to Gaza Junior School. I was born again. I married a Muslim, and then I moved out of religion. And I know about Christianity and Christian ethics and morality. The kind of feminism I practice embraces that background. My background into being a young girl, into growing into a young woman, was really informed by a religious form of feminism that my mother practiced. It was mainly hinged upon the Anglican Church. And so I understand the moralization of that particular brand of feminism. Christian Ugandan feminists hate me and they hate my guts, and I accepted that. But I'm still a feminist. I have gone to a number of Christian feminist fellowships because, like I said, for a long time, I fed on the Bible. I'm born again. I went to Gaza. I trained within the Pentecostal formations in Uganda, in Kampala, and in Masaka, my home country. I'm also a Muganda girl. So there's the traditional African Giganda feminism, which is very much similar to any patriarchal forms of feminism, where the Senga or the paternal aunt plays a significant role. The matrilineal lineage is not as important as the patrilineal lineage. The young girl belongs to her brothers and her father, and that sort of patriarchal feminism, which we practice within patriarchal African culture. I know because I was raised a Muganda girl, where we kneel in subservience. I was raised with all of that. And so I'm deeply grounded in terms of culture. As an anthropologist, I've trained in cultural and culturalisms and cultural relativism. And so I can embrace conservative Giganda, African feminism that comes from the viewpoint of we are Africans. For us Africans, we do this. We are anti-colonial in this nature. However, I have pulled myself above both Christian feminism as it's practiced in Uganda and African cultural traditional conservative feminism. There's another brand of feminism, the one that I call corporate feminism. It's all over the NGOs in Uganda. When I was writing about feminists in high heels, I was thinking about the NGO type of feminism where there are all these NGOs and women in power suits. They speak English. They're very elitist. They have all these developmental, in brackets, programs where they get funding, and they're funded heavily by organizations to do work to uplift women out of. Ashana, stop requesting me for the microphone. I will open up the microphones when it's time. Thank you very much. Please don't WhatsApp me because you're interrupting my flow. I see your request and I will upload you. But I want to first speak my piece because I'm tired of feminists punching upon me. The feminists in your space, was it 2 nights ago? They were beating upon me in my absence. Why was Rebecca Kabeja shouting about Stella Nyanzi shouting? I wasn't even in that space. And so I'm sick and tired of Ugandan feminists taking advantage of voice and space to hit upon those of us perhaps whom they hate and alienate. So I was talking about the corporate type of feminism, the entrepreneur type of feminism, the NGO style of feminism, the briefcase feminists who have to write quarterly reports in response to funding agendas. I have been there. I have practiced it. When I needed support and help, those feminists were not there for me. Many times they featured if my issues, my plight, fit within their program and their agenda and their schedule. If I was not within the topic they were funded to do, I was irrelevant and they didn't work with me. They didn't support me. And so the corporate sort of very extractive, exploitative mode of feminists who go to do tourists where the real women who need support are can be very vindictive, especially if one is outside their agenda, if one is disrupting their project cycle and their project funding and all that nonsense we do as feminists. However, I want to say I identify with them because as part of the NGO world, I worked as a consultant with feminists. And so even as I criticize, I want to say I have identified and placed myself squarely within the Christian conservative feminism that's practiced particularly by the elitist women who are working in government and go to prayer meetings and speak in tongues. I have identified myself closely with African traditional feminism, particularly the patriarchal type where the Senga, the Nalongo, the Mama Muto are elevated within the patriarchal and the patrilineal order, where polygyny is celebrated, where fertility and reproduction are celebrated and rewarded. A woman is only a woman and mature when she has children and she has procreative heterosexual sex with men. All of that. I have identified myself with that. The third form I have talked about is this corporate type of feminism. And I said I was there. But I want to say that for me, the feminism that I have eventually decided to strategically locate myself with and identify with is a feminism that is radical and is queer. I'm a radical queer African feminist, given all that background. And so I understand when feminists who will not work with abortion or sex work or homosexuality hate me. I will understand because our approaches, our priorities are different. When I say I'm a cisgender woman, I'm a heterosexual woman, right? But I'm an African. And I identify with transgender people and intersex people. I identify with homosexual, heterosexual, asexual. Within heterosexuality, I appreciate monogamy, polygamy, polyamory, polyandry. I accept all forms of relationship and liaison, including commercial sex work, which is sex work, away from the exploitation within the industry. When I identify strongly with particular forms of sex and sexualities writ large, I understand why conservative African feminists and conservative Christian feminists and NGO type of Ugandan feminists will not embrace the sort of feminism that I espouse, aspire towards, and premise. Like, it's the front and center of the sort of activism that I do, the sort of intellectual work that I do, the sort of political work that I do, and my art and poetry are built around a radical queer African feminism. And when I say radical, I mean that I no longer work as a reformist. I work as a person who really believes in the overhaul of systems and structures of oppression. Okay? That is the feminism that I espouse and identify boldly with. I don't just come to work within oppressive orders, within oppressive hierarchies, but I enter spaces determinedly as a warrior to overhaul what I think is oppressive to minorities, women, girls, sometimes boys and men too, but mainly women, girls, and gender minorities. Defined largely, defined broadly. I have the expertise, I have the training, I have the experience, and I also have the ignorance. I'm humble enough to know that there's so many things I don't know and I'm willing to learn. I haven't arrived, but I've done some work and I know how I identify. So you feminists who are busy saying you're not a feminist, Stella Nyanzi, fuck you. Fuck you tonight and fuck you hard. I am a feminist. I define for myself who I am. I determine for myself what I am. I know my contributions in the past, in the present, and what I want to do. So stop fucking around with me. I'm a feminist with an agenda, a determined agenda. I'm a feminist on a mission. I don't have time to sit around the fragilities of weak feminists of whatever caliber. I don't have time and space for that nonsense. Stop punching upon me if I stand in your way. You think you're a glorified feminist, and I didn't do the work that you expect me to do. Go and get your agenda. Go and get your agenda, dear sweet feminist. You goody goody two shoes feminist. Go and put on your goody goody two shoes and do the sort of whispering and shandering that I refuse to do right now. When I need prayers, I will come to the church corner. I know where the churches are. I will come to the mosque. I will come to the temple, and we shall pray and hold hands and sing kumbaya. When it's time to settle Nanyira, fuck you, Komanyoko, I will use that language which you can't use because after all, Ndinarongo, Ebuganda, Narongo, Tawebula, Ebuganda, in my culture, we say Chimana Pwa, the big vagina goes Pwa, Chimana Pwa, Echanarongo, Chibwa Tukanga Rumonde, and that's within the cultural license of the Baganda. That is the sort of culture that I am raised in and I glorify as an African woman. It's a culture that gives us space as African women to say particular words in particular times and hours. So if you feel like my words, my speech is too loose and lewd and aggressive and vulgar and obscene, fuck you, go away. Get out of the space and let us curse. Tuzina abalongo, tubapamire pamire, tukole buli kireeta gokkalibwa emikono tugikole for our liberation. If you can't do the sort of work that African feminists did with their nudity, let us be naked. Tubasere. Afterwards, we shall dress up and wear high heels and hold briefcases and put on lipstick and come to the gatherings and the meetings and speak English. That is why I trained and I have a PhD. So if you want us to speak about intellectualism and quote Audre Lorde or quote Sylvia Tamale, whose work I love and criticize as well, or quote whichever thinkers, feminist thinkers, particularly the African feminist thinkers, I will be there, I will represent because I have a PhD. I love to read, I love to study. So if you can't deal with the theories, theorem, get out of our space when intellectuals gather. But me, I'm going to gather. And then I will put my PhD aside and I will go to the Chikubo. I will pull up my skirt. I will climb that tata and do the hard work that your high heels will never do. Your manicured fingers are not going to hold the garbage in the sewers. Let me hold that garbage because you're not going to do it, sweetheart. Go to the salon and get your hair done because some of us have dreadlocks and with the dreadlocks we can have the dandruff. And my point right now is there are classes of feminism. Some of us we try to embrace feminism in its wholeness, but we are different. We are heterogeneous as a movement. The feminist movement is not one uniform thing. Even prisoners in uniforms differ in intellect, in class, in age, in generation. Why are feminists in Uganda trying to make cookies out of us, zombies without brains out of us? Why? And if I choose to elevate myself above all these forms of limitations within the feminist movement, and I say I will identify with particular causes and particular issues, I will join politics, which most of those middle class feminists who are bitching upon me have refused to join. I join politics, and I'm critical of all our political leaders, whether he's NRM, PLU, NUP, FDC, DP, CP, PFF, or any other faction. I criticize them particularly when it comes to misogyny, when it comes to homophobia, when it comes to corruption and capitalism, especially exploitative capitalism. I'll be criticizing them. I don't care what their rank, their name, their status, their title is. Whether they're with the NRM dictatorship or whether they're with the liberation struggle, I will be criticizing the leaders in ways that none of those punchers who are punching upon my name have done. So you're calling me out and saying, Stella Nyanzi shouts a lot. Yes, I shout a lot. But I can also whisper softly. And I've whispered softly into the ears of bad boys. Bad boys whom you are all putting on particular altars to sacrifice. So Semakadde is my friend. And I refuse to unfriend him. People can resign and write resignation letters. I refuse to write a resignation letter around friendship. You know, women can divorce from a marriage. Friendship for me, the sort of feminist friendship I espouse to, the one I aspire towards, the one that inspires me, says, brother, you're my friend. I will call you out in private. I will call you out before the council of elders. I will call you out before 3 witnesses, and then I will expose you if my calling you out at different levels is not effective. I will call you out. But I'm not afraid of being a friend to those men you fear, those men you call abusers, because those men you fear and call abusers are human beings too. Those men you call abusers can change too. Those men you call abusers can become comrades in struggles. Those men you call abusers can become champions too of our struggles. Those men you call misogynists can journey. Like we have testimonies of men who journeyed from misogyny, patriarchy, and they became feminist leaders, feminist champions, feminist comrades, or at least they stopped the misogyny. Otherwise, what is the feminist agenda? Why are we fighting about equality and fighting for equality of the genders if we don't think that change is possible? Why do we delude ourselves? I champion the feminist struggle because I have seen men change. It takes time. I have seen abusers change. So what if the abuser is my brother? What if the abuser is my son? What if the abuser is my lover? What do I do? If the abuser is my son and I'm his mother, he is a twin, and I'm a Nalungu, I'm best placed to call out this abuser in ways that culture allows me. If the abuser is a Kakuru and I'm a Nyinababiri, I have a lot more cultural license to speak to the man in that boy who calls me Mama Nalongo than any of you who are not mothers of Nalongos do. That is what my African culture tells me. That is what patriarchy tells him. Right? And so when I get close to these men, and they're in my life, I've seen women saying, why does she pick all the misogynists? Perhaps I'm a woman that's attracted to those who have power, and perhaps those who have power use their power badly. There was Mamdani, a bad boy. There's Semakadde, apparently a bad boy. There's Kakwenza, a bad boy. The line of men I could line up, perhaps are all bad boys. But what do we do with the bad boys? What do feminists do about bad boys? Do we hang up our guns and walk away? Is that what we do? Is that what the feminist calling is about? Is feminism about saying they're misogynists? Let them go that side. We draw a line, as we shall not cross it. What if that abuser that you're calling a misogynist is a man who can fly and come to my house and have a meal with me and my children? What do I do? What do I do? If he's the man who sleeps in my bed and is my lover, if the abuser is my own, what do I do? Are you saying I hang up my tools and walk away? Is that the new feminist order? When I say I speak to these men in private, where you're not, and you're not doing anything apart from shaming them and walking away from them, when I say I speak to them and I listen to them before I make judgment, is that wrong? To open my door and say, what's the issue? Why are you doing this? I've had all of this. Is it your business? When I speak heart to a man, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and I see improvements, and then I'm disappointed when he does what he does, is that your business? Or is it my feminist prerogative to determine, I am an adult, I am a feminist, there is a mission and work to be done? And so I want to come to questions around, why is Stella Nyanzi supporting Isaac Semakadde? I supported him. I will support Isaac. Isaac is my friend. All those feminists who have been in all those different meetings, all those different spaces, trying to unfeminist me, as if it's even possible. Nobody has a monopoly over feminism. Nobody. I'm a feminist, period. Let it chibanugune, chibanyole, chibafumite, chibayingire obusolo, ate chimane muchiwandule. Muveko zendi feminist. Nobody has the right, the ability, the authority to say you're not a feminist, you're a feminist. You're not one of us. It's not a club like that. A club where you gatekeep, you have gatekeepers. I don't know what fuck you're gatekeeping. I refuse to be gatekept by a bunch of fragile, pussyfooting pussies. I refuse that. I'm a bitch. Bitches, come and deal with me as a bitch. I'm the shit bitch your mother's warned you about, and I'm a feminist. If you have a problem with it, bitch, sit down and learn. Perhaps you're a puppy. Being your puppy shit at me, I'm a bitch. Okay? I'm afraid of using the language of bitches. Stop bitching around with me. So Isaac Semakadde is my friend. Perhaps I should begin with explaining why I refuse to unfriend Semakadde. I know what it means to be in a position where all of Uganda just walks away, alienates, disassociates, begins to hate upon me simply because I'm doing my work, simply because I'm challenging the bastards you feared to challenge. I challenged Mamdani, and almost all of Makerere University turned its back on me. I was punished when I was doing the right thing. I challenged Mamdani when all the African Ugandan professors were kissing his dick and saying, praise you, Lord Mamdani. Mamdani is a wonderful, amazing scholar, and I wanted to be under his leadership to learn from him. And then I learned he has management problems that nobody was challenging. The institution was being violated and raped by this amazing guru, and nobody was doing anything. So as a young African feminist, a scholar with a PhD, I thought I'll tackle this giant. I'm a David going to slew this Goliath. So I picked up my sling and I picked up my 5 stones. And I think Muwasa and all the professor friends of mine, the feminist professors, wanted me to use their swords of diplomacy and civility and appeals processes. I went through the entire civil structures at Makerere, the appellate bodies, the college, the what. None of them were listening. Those swords were not working. Those dogs were not barking. I needed a lion to roar. So I picked up my sling. Nudity, and Facebook and Twitter. And Mamdani came down, pa, 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 head first. He will never recover from my nudity, even when I never showed him my cunt or my pubic hair or my buttocks. I never fully undressed. Not for Mamdani. He doesn't deserve my nudity. But I went bare for him. I went bare knuckles with my breasts at Makerere. None of you didn't see that. None of you were there. Jackie Asimwe was there. Sarah Birete was there. They stood silently by the side and watched. Sylvia Tamale came to the scene of protest. I was calling upon my ancestors to ride with me as I put down Mamdani with my nudity, my breasts, and my Facebook. And Sylvia Tamale came and said, Stella Nyanzi, put on your clothes. You are shaming feminists. And I was like, fuck you, Sylvia. Do you want me to take off my panties and show you that it's not your fight to determine? I have determined the terms of engagement. Where were all the feminists at Makerere? Those of you who are saying I'm not a feminist, where were you when I was changing the patriarchal misogynist culture at Makerere University with my breasts and my dirty words and my middle finger and my Facebook posts? Where were you? When I was doing the hard feminist work, before you start punching upon me, bring your breasts to the front line. I want to see your breasts to the front line. Only those 3 young naked women who protested against corruption can speak to me about anything. You other losers who are dressed up in civility, sit down and shut the fuck up. Because like I said, I'm the bitch who will do the dirty work you won't do. And when I'm doing it, don't tell me Stella Nyanzi is cuddling Semakadde. Stella Nyanzi is cuddling Semakadde. Isaac Semakadde is my friend. I will not unfriend him. Go and do what you want to do. Kakwenza Rukirabashaija is a twin. He is Kakuru. He is my son. As a Muganda, any twin that shows up is my son. I will not disown Kakwenza. I will call him out in ways you cannot call him out. Let me do that work. I have been sexualized. Sexualized as I do my work, I do not care. I use sex as a weapon, the language of sex, the act of sex. I use sex, the thoughts around sex and the power it holds as a weapon. If you can't do that work, let me do it. But do not tell me how to fight. I am fighting against giants and they come down. So this feminist, why is she class to Kakenza? Why is she class to Semakadde? Why is she class? Stop bleeding upon me. And so the twins, Yvonne and Cynthia, appear on the scene again. They appear on the scene again, and suddenly feminists are all out in arms, expecting all of us so-called Ugandan feminists to babysit these little twins. I am a Nalungo. Nakato and Babidi are my children in Buganda. None of you, apart from the Nalungos on this call, have got authority within culture to address Nakato and Babidi as I do. In this matter, I choose silence because I have the birthday of Waso and Kato to prepare for. I have the birthday of my own sons, my flesh and blood, those born from the middle of my thighs. I have their birthday to focus on. And then these puppy dogs are yelping. Fuck you and your little puppy bucks. I'm not a puppy, I'm a bitch. Ask me what I'm doing with Semakadde. Do not begin alleging that Semakadde is applying for exile through me. He's applying for asylum. Who said Semakadde is applying for asylum? Like, shut the fuck up if you don't have a clue what Semakadde is doing. Perhaps Semakadde came so he can receive a revised version of my will. I'm a woman turning 51. My property, my estate has shifted and changed. My sons are no longer children. In fact, they're now men. Perhaps Semakadde came for business because he has been my lawyer. Isaac is my friend because when representing and defending me in diverse courts, tribunals, criminal division, high court, civil court, the constitutional court, when none of you could do it, Isaac was there. I chose to stand with Isaac because when lawyers trained at Makerere School of Law, it used to be called the Faculty of Law, came to me, instead of taking instructions from me, those lawyers had the audacity to instruct me on what the legal strategy was. It should be and they refused to take my instructions. The only person astute enough to recognize that the prisoner makes the call. She may be a prisoner wearing yellow, seated on the floor, and you're wearing your suit, squatting up, your genitalia smelling before me as a prisoner. I was the one supposed to instruct you. He knew the authority that I carried because he was there to represent me. He wasn't there to run his agenda, whatever they were. Many feminist lawyers failed, and Isaac got it. And so Isaac has represented me in at least 7 difficult legal suits in the criminal division. When the main complainant was Dictator Yoweri Museveni, and his wife and his son and their children, when the main complainant was Makerere University, Isaac Semakadde represented me. I am not going to unfriend him because some feminists feel like they're bleeding because Yvonne wrote a missive. I will not do that. I'm not stupid. A feminism that disowns its own, who stood in solidarity in difficult moments, is not a solidarity and a feminism I want to aspire towards. No. Those feminists who say, hey, if Anithia was your friend, you should stand on the wall. In moments of war, we cannot afford neutrality. We cannot afford to sit on fences. So stick your advice up your asses. I have a side. I stand with Semakadde. He was my lawyer. When the state wanted to examine me mentally without my consent, Semakadde reached out to Senior Counsel Peter Walubiri, and we petitioned the Constitutional Court of Uganda, and we ran with that petition until I was released, and I went before the Parliamentary Review Committee that was reviewing the Mental Health Treatment Act, and eventually we had a change from the Colonial Mental Treatment Act. It was Semakadde who was there when all these lawyers and feminists were not there. When I suffered a miscarriage in Luzira women prison, when all the feminists could have done something, it was Semakadde and Justice Lydia Mugambe and a young transgender friend, Kim Love, who mediated. Where were all these people who were punching upon me when I opened my door to Semakadde? When Makerere University threw me out unjustly, when their tribunals decided actually in my favor, but Makerere insisted on continuing to throw me out because I'm a young black woman standing for the rights, labor rights of young black women at the academy. It was Semakadde and a young lady called Godiva who stood with me before professors. When all the feminist professors at university were not there, the feminist lawyers were not with me. It was Isaac Semakadde. Why do people then expect me to suddenly say, Isaac, because Babidi wrote? I stood with Isaac during a very difficult Uganda Law Society campaign for the presidency. I am unashamed. I refuse to be ashamed. Isaac Semakadde is my candidate. He was my candidate. People mocked us because as non-lawyers, we have no vote. But as a feminist, I knew the power, my power of aligning myself behind Semakadde. I mean, I looked at Kenneth Kipalu with his Christianity. You know, I looked at Isaac Atukunda with his NRM leaning. And I looked at Isaac. And for me, there was no question. There was no 2 cents. All the other feminists can align themselves with the NRM. I am not going to align myself with a candidate who is pro-NRM. That knocked out Isaac Atukunda immediately for me. Anyone who is standing upon the principles of the blood of my parents were murdered because of the failures of the NRM. My parents were murdered because of the eccentricities and I can't even talk about of Dictator Yoweri Museveni. I can't stand with them. At least Isaac came to undo the status quo. Kenneth Kipalu would have been amazing, but for the kind of fight that I need to be undertaken, he was too mild for me. And so I celebrated when he stepped down in favor of Isaac. I cheered and I banged that table, banged it hard. So stop attacking me. Why did you come and apologize because you supported Isaac? Fuck you. I supported him. I still support him and I have no regrets at all whatsoever. I have a history with Isaac. Beyond the history, the future of the Uganda that I envisage needs people who are going to be able to take the bull by its horn. Isaac doesn't just take the bull. He has this way of taking the bull, its eyes and its penis. Immediately in one, we need disruptive leadership. Disruptive leadership comes with its problems. In fact, in the campaign, I remember telling those who were fortunate enough to listen to the spaces where I was, because they were fortunate, I say to them, Isaac is a difficult character. He's not easy. He's not easy. Isaac is not easy. But out of the 3 contestants, I will put my money, my mouth, my power, my everything behind Isaac Semakadde, because the sort of Uganda that we have needs disruptive leadership. And whether you want to admit it or not, Isaac has brought ULS closer to everyday people such as myself, whether we are classed or unclassed, whether we are men or women or genderless, whatever. Whether we are in government or outside government, whether we are lawyers or non-lawyers, Isaac has created, through his leadership of the Uganda Law Society, a particular interest and fire. He has relit dead embers with his leadership. Maybe you won't acknowledge it. Maybe you won't load it, but I do. And I want to call out the hypocrisy that says that Uganda Law Society is still composed of lullaby singers as presidents and the leadership. No, 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 no. We needed someone to come and kick us. And I want to say that Isaac, my little brother, my lawyer, has been kicking us. Maybe he's kicking us in ways you don't appreciate. We can talk about that. But he's kicking us. And the sort of liberatory movement we need, the sort of revolutionary leadership we need, is the sort that's going to kick us. Hate Isaac. He is not perfect. I am the first to say Isaac Semakadde is not perfect. But in terms of his leadership of Uganda Law Society, compared to Isaac Katukunda, who was the only opponent after Kenneth Kipalu stepped down, like, fuck you lawyers. Fuck you lawyers calling us to apologize. Fuck you. There's nothing to choose. Those of us who are anti-government, those of us who yearn for liberation, for revolution, for change, for transformation in our country, cannot afford to blind our eyes to possibilities. And I think for me, Isaac represents possibility. Now, how do we manage the possibility? That's a question that's important. That's a question that's important. How do we manage flawed charisma, flawed personality? That is a question that must be asked. Perhaps those are the questions I was asking of Isaac, just as I've asked of very many other bad boys. My attraction to bad boys must not scare these fragile feminists. So Babiria comes crying about a failed sexual relationship. And then we're expected to do what? We're expected to do what about Babiria? Isaac is polygynous, he's polygamous, he's polyamorous. If it's a problem for you, in my introduction, I said they are conservative African feminists who cannot dare think about any other possibilities around sexual arrangements outside of monogamy or monogamy. And monogamy is mainly a very colonial construct that was imposed upon us by Christianization and Western civilization. And the nuclear family idea is not necessarily cultural to Baganda. Isaac is a Muganda just like myself. My father was polygamous. My grandfather was polygamous. My great-great-grandfather was polygamous. My father was a medical doctor. He went to school. He's not a village bumpkin without an education. He's middle class, educated, masters in the US, practiced in Saudi and very many other places, came back to Uganda, settled down. But he was also polygamous. So what do you do with polygamous men if you're an African feminist? Isaac is polygamous, polygynous, polyandrous. He has the wife, perhaps. He has the mother to children. He has the other mother to children. He has regular sexual partners. He has casual sexual partners. He has the booty call. He has the cyber call. He has the telephone sex. So what are you going to do? You're a feminist and what? You're bleeding because one of his sexual relationships went south? Like feminists, like, what's wrong with feminists? We talk about sexual pleasure and sexual liberation and open relationships. And then when somebody who's supposed to have an open relationship, because she's actually intruding upon the sexual relationship of other women who've come before her, of mothers to the children of this man, now she wants monogamy. And when she can't get monogamy and they fall out, I am supposed to come in with my feminist counsel? Like, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. In terms of Isaac's sexuality, his sexual relationships, I don't want to know. As I've told all my other bad boy friends, I learned from my father that a good polygamist, a good polyandrous man, a man who has multiple sexual relationships, including with a monogamous person, what you have to do is manage your relationships. Manage your relationships. So that those of us who are not involved in having sexual encounters with you, your sexual liaisons, do not spill your semen onto us. And so what I would have done if I were in the position of those feminists, if you really, really wanted to do something with Isaac and his semen. Don't pull the rest of us into the equation. Don't. I mean, I saw he wrote about his household. Perhaps it's a household private affair. Perhaps. Who knows what it is? But the expectation that because Yvonne has come out and she's alleging this and alleging that and alleging this, therefore all of us should start hitting upon feminists. Like, what sort of fragility is that? What sort of fakeness is that within the feminist movement? That an entire feminist movement in Uganda is going to shake and expect all of us to become uniform like zombies and operate like robots in response to Commander Yvonne. No, like, no, 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 no. We must elevate ourselves upon beyond that. Now, this fragile snowflake like feminists are calling out on Stella Nyanzi for coddling abusers. Who is the abuser in this case? In this particular relationship that has been publicized, who is the abuser? For those of us who know the context and the details, who is the abuser? Questions around sexual exploitation have been raised. Questions around, it was transactional sex, perhaps. Those of us who believe that sex work is work and that there is sexual capital that can be exchanged for services, for benefits, for money, even for affluence, for power. If in the dealing of exchanging sexual services and sexual fluids, there was discontent, are we sure in which sides the exploitation was flowing? Is it flowing from Yvonne to Isaac, from Isaac to Yvonne? Is it mutual? Before people start saying, Stella Nyanzi, he's an abuser. Who has he abused? Are we sure he's not the abused? I'm not Isaac's lawyer because I haven't had sex with Isaac. I have no issues with who he fucks or doesn't fuck, how he fucks. I hope he uses a condom. Clearly, the kids getting born. I hope that when they're getting born, we're not going to have to work with sexually transmitted infections. Apart from that, as an older friend, I don't want to know. Was it doggy? Was it doggy with Babidie and Nakato was watching? What? I don't care. That is their private life. Now, these feminists expect me, after talking about sexual liberation and sexual pleasure and the pleasure movement and healthy sex and sexual reproductive health choices, after doing all that hard work, they want me to come and become an umpire. An umpire of where Isaac inserts his penis? Like, seriously, guys, they have bigger giants to slay. I don't have time to start wiping the blood of feminists who have allowed Yvonne's bleeding heart to bleed upon them. Stop bleeding on us. We all menstruate. I don't want to start wiping your menstrual blood from myself. I don't want to participate. That one woman is menstruating, then the whole feminist movement must start wiping ourselves because she's menstruating on us. Stop bleeding on me. I'm a woman as yourselves. I bleed. I am not yet menopausal, although many of you have called me menopausal. I still have a period. None of you has come to clean my period blood for me. And because you don't clean my menstrual period blood, please don't expect me to come and clean the period blood of adult women. Yvonne is an adult. She made choices to have sex or not to have sex. Just like she menstruates and doesn't expect me to come and clean her menstrual blood. Why must I come and clean up after her sexual liaison has gone south? Was I there when he was putting it in? When he was dabbing her clitoris, was I there? Does she have a clitoris? I don't know. Is she circumcised or not? I don't care. Why must I be involved in the sexual relationships of two adults? Isaac is my lawyer. Where he puts his penis, whether it's circumcised or not, I don't care. How many pussies it goes into, I don't care. If he has sexual liaison with his penis with another penis, I don't care. That's private bedroom affairs. Why are these feminists dragging my person with all my enigma, my learning, my expertise, my fire, and the work I'm doing? Why are they derailing me to focus on whether Isaac put his penis in Babidie or Nakato or in both of them? How does that become my feminist prerogative? It's not. Not interested in that. Not interested in that. I believe in the sexual revolution. I believe in sexual emancipation. I believe in rights for women. I don't believe in going into Isaac Semakadde's bed uninvited. And if he invited me, I wouldn't have sex with him, just like I wouldn't have sex with Kakwenza Rukirabashaija. Because this man, we don't have engagements that are about sex. We have engagements about politics and bringing down dictators. And I want to explain why, for me, Isaac is necessary, just as Kakwenza is necessary in the sort of work and future that I envision. Isaac is a tool for me, just as Mamdani was a tool for me. Just as Chiza Besigye is a tool for me. Just as Bobby Wine is a tool for me. These men are tools that are going to make sure that my feminist agenda and my feminist dreams and my feminist visions come to pass in my lifetime. If Chiza Besigye is going to silence the feminist aspirations that I work with and live with and dream for and wake up to, he's not my leader. If Isaac Semakadde is going to defend the feminist agenda that I have, he is the leader that I will work with. And my relationship with Semakadde has been as a tool that understands the law and has won cases for me. Out of 7 cases that Isaac Semakadde represented me, we only lost 1 case. And this was a case against the New Vision and Bukedde, who went to my father's grave after my father died. They went and photographed my father's grave because I undressed at Makerere. My sister, who's a lawyer and recommended Isaac Semakadde to me, said to me, Isaac is the best person to deal with this case. We lost. We lost after suing New Vision. It is the only legal battle that Isaac Semakadde lost. And we lost because they never agreed in principle on legal strategy. And I learned to be very suspicious of lawyers when they're sitting around to discuss legal strategy, because I observed 2 amazingly brilliant lawyers struggling around strategy. And when Isaac yielded to my sister's preferred methods of operation, we lost. I don't blame her. My sister is a feminist lawyer. She chooses to work the way she works. She's a reformist. She works with systems. I overhaul systems. And I identified Isaac as a person with potential for radical overhaul of structures and systems. At least he's willing to dare. So I don't approach Isaac as a private sexual partner, as a social friend. Principally, Isaac for me is a tool, a weapon, an ally just as I write words when I want to deal with the law in very hard, crude, scientific, non-emotional ways, I go to Isaac Semakadde. And so in terms of boundary setting, when people say to me, what are you doing with Isaac? Isaac is my machine. Just like I expect whichever person is in leadership with me and relates with me as a leader to be someone serving me towards a particular end. So how can these feminists take away my legal battle axe away from me? Isaac is my legal bazooka. I'm not going to study the law. I'm not going to become fluent in the law, but I need a lawyer who is astute and who can understand the sort of strategy I want to engage with and who will give me primacy in determining the sort of tools I want, the outcome I want. How he does the legal battle is his business in court. And I trust him. I trust him. Maybe he's ruthless. Maybe he's streetwise. Maybe he's crooked. But I trust him because he'll get me the dividend. He'll get me the end. He'll get me that which I desire to grasp and hold, and which I'll celebrate a victory after battling in court. You know? So why would anybody take that tool away from me? I don't deal with Isaac as the leading feminist champion. I deal with Isaac as a legal battle axe. He understands what judges think. He understands how to upset them and how not to upset them. And perhaps that is all I want. He can write the language of the law. He can quote this and that case, this precedent and that precedent. I don't have the time or the fortitude to study the law to the depth he's done it. And so I need Isaac for that. He's my tool. Why are these feminists taking my tool away from me? Just as the language, the foulness. I've seen questions around, he is foul, he is vulgar, just like Stella Nyanzi. They called, I called out Esiteris vagina. He called Abodo a rotten vagina. Was it a rotten tomato? Language is a tool. Don't take away our tools away from us. Language is a tool. If Isaac is vulgar, he's vulgar because language is a tool. Why are you taking it away from us? He insults people. Okay, duh. Of course, we know he insults people. That is why he's Isaac. They say I insult people. On occasion, I will. Most of the occasions, I don't. But language is a tool. Learn to fashion it in ways that work for you. If it doesn't work for you, let those of us who use language as tools use it. Don't tell us how to use it. Live it. You go and pray in your prayer corners. Go and pray in your prayer corners. If he's too vulgar for you, but the vulgarity gets the attention of the DPP, the entire directorate of public prosecutions, and they're listening. If it gets the attention of Sekana and Kayizi, was he Kayizi? I forget the guy who also tried him. Let that be the point of entry, the point of contestation, the dirty language that you won't speak. And so you feminists, if our language is too vulgar for you, go and sit down and sing kumbaya. Pray in the spiritual tongues, Shandara mama mama, roboko siyatarama, yandere bebe. You pray for us sinners because we are fallen sinners. We shall do the cursing on your behalf. But there are wars to be fought. Some of the wars to be fought are in institutions such as the Uganda Law Society, the DPP, the bench and the bar, all these things that lawyers have to deal with so that we get to a new Uganda. If Semakadde is the little David with his sling doing things that you can't do because you're used to using big swords, let Semakadde slay the big Goliath, then you can come and clean up. You come and clean up after him. And so I'm not defending Isaac. I'm saying he is flawed. He is broken. He's as most of us should be. He's using his best tools. Is he abusive? Perhaps. In terms of language, we've been called abusive. Stella abuses people. Stella abuses people. Stella Nyanzi really abuses people. And she screams, fuck you. Yes, I use bad words. But what makes me use these bad words is because they're effective. And I'm not inviting you to my bad words committee. Let those of us who specialize in bad words use the bad words. Isaac has decided he'll use them. If you can't use them, hey, you go and sit down and pray for us. We are sinners. We shall meet at the day of judgment. If God doesn't take us in, maybe you will be like Father Abraham when Lazarus went and he saw Father Abraham and he said, please send an angel to drop some water into my mouth. Maybe you'll be the Father Abrahams we shall see in heaven and we'll pray for you to come and bring us a drop of water. But right now, we are not in hell and we're not in heaven. We live on earth. And on earth, we have decided to take on particular modes of oppression. And some of the tools we use are not going to be similar or likable by all of you. We don't need your approval to do the sort of battling that we have to do. Does that make me less feminist because I work with Isaac who swears and talks about Abodo's vagina, the vagina from Karamoja? I've written about Esiteris vagina and that took me to prison. Did it make me less of a feminist? Did it take anything away from my feminism? I don't think so. I think that the vagina is the most powerful feminist tool of warfare. If it can make a whole president, roll out his entire cyber crimes unit to come and catch me because I said Esiteris vagina in one poem. Keep using the word vagina. Use it at all your oppressors. It works. It brought Abodo from wherever she was, and Isaac is now hunted. But at least there's a history of the power of bad words. Use it. If you don't know about your colonial history and how bad words worked, let those of us who are in touch with that history do the work for you. But do not mock and ridicule us because you don't approve. We don't need your approval to do the work we are doing. And it is hard work. It is the work that is going to cause change in our countries. So mine is a refusal to unfriend Isaac Semakadde because a woman he had sex with has written about him. If there are issues around sexual exploitation, get the evidence. Go to court. If there are issues around human resources, I do not know what sort of feminists are babysitting and breastfeeding a woman who enters into labor relations with a man she's calling an abuser without a contract. And she carries her 3 children born to 2 different fathers from her home and carries them into this man's house without a contract. Was it a labor relationship? Should HR management come and look into this issue? Was it a personal relationship? Was it sexual when there are children involved? Was it exploitative? Who is exploiting the other? Who is being ignorant about these issues? I'm not an ignorant puppy. I'm a bitch. I'm a bitch. And bitches, I see you and I'm calling you out. How are you coddling a mother to 3 children, including a 15-year-old daughter? And she carries that daughter, along with the daughter's sisters, 3 daughters, into the home of a man she calls an abuser. And you are saying it's my problem that I didn't call out Isaac? Call out Babidye. Call out Babidye. Why is Babidye carrying a 15-year-old into the house of a man she calls an abuser? If indeed she did act as a mother, looking for a father figure for her children who lack fathers, what sort of feminists are you to fail to call out that duplicity? And you want Stella Nyanzi to come in and investigate where Isaac Semakadde put his penis? Whether they had doggy style or ducky style or goatee style or crocodile style? Do I even want to know? Is it my affair? When she was shifting her bags from her home in Chisasi to the apartment they're talking about, was I involved? Was it a choir mass? Was it, I don't know, OAU, Organization of Africa? Or was it AU? Did African Unity sit? Was it this African community that sat when Babidye was going into Semakadde's house, into Semakadde's bedroom, with her 3 children born to 2 fathers? How does that even become my affair? When does it become my affair? I'm not in Uganda. I don't know Babidye. I know Isaac. I have heard his side of the story. A fugitive is fleeing from Uganda because KK, Chiriyo Wachiwanuka, and everything he represents is chasing after him. The Interpol has been ordered to catch him. He has a 2-year conviction. Or is it a sentence? A 2-year sentence. He's a wanted man. He flees. And then you want me to say to him, Isaac, get out of my house? Because feminists are holding the menstrual blood of Babidye? Babidye is not going to put her menstrual blood on me. I refuse to succumb to that sort of bullying. Ugandan feminists, get your shit in order. Like I said to you, I am the bitch that your mother warned you about. I'm not a puppy. If you want to go and do your puppy barking, go and bark in the puppy's yard. Do not call my name. My name is Stella Nyanzi. I am sick and tired of the duplicity of the Ugandan feminist movement. You hate me, the bulk majority of you. I'm a radical queer feminist. I'm a radical queer feminist. I don't have time for fuckery. I don't have time to wipe the menstrual blood out of adult women's vaginas. Stop bleeding onto me. Control your bleeding. Control your bleeding, Ugandan feminists. I'm not going to carry your blood for you. If Babidye wants to menstruate onto your arms and you're going to clean her menses, go ahead. Do not invite me to those rituals of cleaning up the failures of women in Uganda. I'm not going to be party to that. If you hate it, go ahead. It's not the first time you're hating on me for doing the work I must do. My work does not include determining whether Semakadde put his penis in either Nakato or Babidye. That is a question that Semakadde and his lovers must determine for themselves in the confines of the privacy of their beds or cars or boudoir or harem. I don't know where he's having sex with his women. He's not my man. His penis is not my penis. I'm not interested in managing the sexual affairs of a old man. Isaac is my gun for legal battle and legal strategy. And I have so many things to do with Isaac as a tool, as a weapon that goes into those courts to fight for me, where you feminist lawyers will not come. So sit your little asses down and leave me alone. If you want to fight other feminists, go and look for feminists your size. Me, I'm not. I'm a bad girl. I don't have time for you little goody tush-shoot girls. Your high heels are too high for me. I put on Crocs, plastic Crocs. Sometimes I'm barefooted. Okay? So stop bleeding all over me. Don't bleed all over me. You have issues with Isaac, take them on with him. If there are legal issues, sue him. Lawyer to lawyer, sue Isaac. Be professional. I say to you, your briefcases don't impress me because your briefcases are funded. Your briefcases have monthly, cycles. You have to write reports. You have to report to your donors. You have particular agendas. I am outside that shit. If you are very traditional and you feel I am too wild and Western, that is fine. You continue judging me, but don't drag me into your traditional African nonsense. I'm an African too. I'm a Muganda. I belong to the Buffalo clan. I know what my Africanness leads me towards. I know what performative Africanness, what my African identity calls me towards. So when I'm cussing as a Nalongo, you're criticizing me. When I speak English, it's too vulgar for you. What do you want with me? You African Ugandan feminists, what do you want with me? If I play with the bad boys and you can't, let me play. I'm not complaining. I didn't complain about Kakwenza. I didn't. I didn't complain about Isaac. I didn't. I am managing my menstrual blood. Please manage your menstrual blood too. Don't go bleeding onto all of us. I'm not going to wipe Babidye's menstrual blood. With what? With my hands? With my tongue? You want to play in Babidye's menstrual blood? You go to her. She's an adult. She's an adult. She's not a young child. That is why she bleeds. So you Ugandan feminists, take me out of your mouths. Put my name outside your mouths. I'm a feminist. I am doing the work I have to do as a feminist. I am working towards the liberation of Uganda from dictatorship. And part of my agenda includes slaying the patriarchy, slaying homophobia, slaying misogyny, slaying exploitative capitalism, slaying militarism. So I don't have time to sit around carrying big men. As I've said to you, Isaac is my weapon. He has fought 7 battles. We lost 1. There's a big war ahead of us. The big war for me is the liberation struggle. It's the liberation struggle. I live for the liberation struggle. That's why I'm in exile. I'm in exile doing my best and being judged, even by feminists. You hate me, I accepted that. That is why I fashioned my own African feminism, as I see it, as I envision it, as I would want to hand it down to my children and my sons. You're not part of that agenda, and I don't want you to be part of that agenda. You're welcome to it, but do not force me into your petty battles, your little puppy dogs. I'm a bitch. I'm not a good dog. I'm a bad dog, and I play with the big bad dogs. I am a bad bitch. Let me play with the dogs. If you're scared of them, I am rolling in that mud with them. So, my dear feminists in Uganda, listen and listen well. I am a feminist. I am not your type of feminist, but I'm still a feminist. You don't have a monopoly over Ugandan feminism, over African feminism, over queer radical feminism, over feminism of any nature. I am a feminist. I will remain a feminist. I was a feminist. Now go fuck yourselves. If my sort of feminism does not work for you, go fuck yourselves. Masturbation is allowed. Go and masturbate. Sit down in your corners and masturbate. Stop trying to invoke me in your entanglements. I don't have time for them. I'm in exile. I'm a mother. I'm struggling to make ends meet. And I have a revolution to work towards. If you want to be part of my revolutionary agenda, fine. But I'm not interested in being punched upon every time. The derailment is too much. It's unnecessary. You want to sit and masturbate about your wins as feminists? Go ahead. I'm not impressed. I am totally not impressed. You have issues with Isaac Semakadde. Go and deal with him. Don't punch me for what Isaac did. Don't punch me for what Kakwenza did or didn't do. Go and deal with these men just as I'm dealing with them directly. I told you I dealt with Mamdani. I dealt with Museveni. I am dealing with Semakadde. I have dealt with Kakwenza in broad daylight. If you haven't seen my work, that too is fine. There are others who see it and they clap and appreciate me. I do not need your appreciation. I will not force it out of you. I appreciate myself every time my head hits the pillow. I'm like, oh God, that was so hot, but we did well. Sometimes I do badly, and I would have loved to get the counsel and advice of young feminists, older feminists, middle-aged feminists, but it's not there. All I get is ridicule and mockery and insult. I am sick and tired. I am sick and tired of your fragile feminism because I am not a fragile little feminist. But I can't be strong forever, and I can't fight you guys forever. Just leave me alone. I'm the rotten, tired warrior on the side. I've been battered. I've been beaten, and I'm tired of getting beatings from feminists. I'm not going to fight you all the time. I don't want to fight you, but I will if I have to. I will if I have to. If you want to fight Semakadde, please do so. People who are lying that I brought him to exile and he's applying for asylum, shame on you. Isaac is not in my house. Isaac is not in Germany. Isaac came to get my will. I revised my will. My boys are no longer children. They turned 18. And so he came to my house to get my will. And as a friend, I gave him a meal. I took him around my city. And then he boarded his plane and went back. You want Isaac? Look for him. Don't look for him in my house. Don't look for him on my name. Don't look for him on my schedule. He came to do the work he has to do for me. If I die, you all now know who has my will. If he dies before me, their copies is taken to other people. But please leave me outside your punching stuff. I'm not in the boxing ring with I don't know what. Now Stella Nyanzi, you leave me alone, guys. I left Uganda for you. You have some small shit to do in Uganda. Do it among yourselves. I left East Africa for you guys. It's all yours. I left Africa for you. I'm now in a small corner in a Bavarian village, past midnight, screaming on a Twitter space because some feminists are revisiting a cycle. This cycle keeps coming back. You Ugandan feminists, you hate me. I don't need your love. You disapprove of what I do. I don't need your approval. Go and fuck yourselves. But take my name out of your mouths. When you want to stink up something, take my name out of your stinking mouths. Take my name out of every pore you have. Stop sweating my name. Take my name out of your vaginas. I'm not your piece. I'm not your susu. I'm not your pupu. I'm not even your child. Stop treating me like a baby. Stop infantilizing me. My name is Stella Nyanzi. I have made my name. Stop bleeding onto my name. I have bled enough for my name. I'm a feminist, an African feminist. Maybe not your flavor of feminism, but none of you has the authority to say she's a feminist, she's not. Maybe I'm not your type of feminist. That's okay. I'm the feminist bitch that your feminist ancestors warned you about. If you cannot come to the bitches party, go and sit in your puppy's corner. I don't care. I don't care. So people who wanted to speak, I see that now you've requested for the microphone. Ashana, you had requested for the microphone. If people want to speak, I'll open up the space. I will predominantly shut up, but I have given you my peace, especially you Ugandan feminists. I've given you my peace. I'm sick and tired of the diatribe, the insults, the mockery, the ridicule. I'm a feminist doing my work as a feminist in the best ways I know how. Sometimes I fail and I bleed for it. I cry for it. If I failed and you want to discuss strategy with me, please do. But stop insulting me. I'm tired. I can't be fighting Janet Museveni, fighting Anita Among. And I also fight this small, I don't know, Kabeja, I don't know, Ampara, I don't know who. I don't even know your names. Your names, I don't know. I don't even care. I don't want to know. And if the feminist issues you want me to get involved in, tell me, woman to woman. But don't start calling my name about things like Yvonne's vagina and Semakadde's penis. I'm not interested in that shit. Those are adults. call me about strategizing about structural and systemic issues in Uganda, the private issues in my friends' lives, the bad boys in my lives. I handle them to the best of my ability as I know how. If you don't like how I publicize some of the issues of these men, perhaps you can tell me how to do it better. But actually, I'm not seeking for your advice on that because these are my private relationships. As I've said to you, Kakwenza is my son. If people feel that I was, dealing with Kakwenza in ways I shouldn't have, he's my son. Ndimna Alungo, he's Kakuru. Isaac is my friend and lawyer. I refuse to unfriend him. He's not my president of Uganda Law Society. I'm not a lawyer. I will never be a lawyer. He's my friend. He's my lawyer. We have a long history. We both come from Masaka. I knew Haji Semakadde in ways you guys will never know. Our parents were friends. Isaac came to my house when I was perhaps in S2 for the first time. He borrowed a book. So I have a long history with Isaac Semakadde. He's my little brother. I will kill the misogynist in him. I will build some feminist principles in him. That's my agenda with him. He's also my battle axe in courts of law. When I need to reference Ugandan law, he's the first person I'll call. We are both nocturnals. I call him at night. So Nawianda and Ashana have requested for microphones. I will shut up and whoops. Ashana, you can now speak. Nawianda, you can now speak. I will shut up and let people speak. So maybe because a woman has been speaking, Nawianda, you'll go first and then Ashana, you'll speak. And if there are any other people who want to address us, the time is yours. Hi, Solomon.
Hi, Dr. Stella. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
First and foremost, I am going to appreciate you for creating this space and for actually expressing your mind independently. Secondly, I'll move forward to, as I have already said, that feminism is not a problem. The problem is a group or a clique of feminists that actually want to capitalize on feminism as a defense to legitimize victimization in order to blame men as misogynists. Why am I saying this? One, I am going to first and foremost capitalize on character in this entire conversation. I've had a group of feminists. I am a feminist, by the way. I've been a scholar of feminism for some time, for those that don't know. And I've come to realize that feminism is not this thing where women call men trash. But feminism is totally a different ideology. So when we come here, the person in question is a compulsive liar. Why do I call them compulsive liars? Habitual liars. These are people that have told not one lie, but multiple lies to justify their positions, to get away with something. In simple terms, they are opportunists. So the big question here is, why is it always this group of people that is victimized? Why are they the victims of everything that they engage in? I want to remind you, I had an opportunity to look at the emails Yvonne and Cynthia wrote to the EU applying for a grant, which grant was actually to facilitate them with money to buy a new car, saying that their previous car in March to Parliament had been facilitated, or actually clips of surveillance had been put in their car, but which car did not belong to them, belonged to actually one of their kin or one of their people. And moving away from this, I will also remind you that this is a group of people that came out to ask for visas to escape from persecution, which persecution, actually, we cannot rule out whether they were persecuted or not, but they were not primary targets for the persecution. We had 100 people in prison, and the application did not mention any of the 100 people in prison, but it mentioned only 2 people. Away from mentioning 2 people, the same application was applying for money for only 2 people. So for me, this presents them as selfish people. Why do I call them selfish? If they did not mention the other group of people of 100 that were affected by the protests, March to Parliament 2024, July, and they are actually applying for a grant at the European Union, this simply presents them as selfish people. So being selfish people, this presents them as non-credible sources to place any allegation against anybody. Away from this, these are the same people that have actually capitalized on calling Agora names, on calling Agatha Tyre names, on calling Jimmy Spire names. And I mean, because they have come out and placed allegations, Isaac Semakadde, we close an eye to this and say, oh my God, these are holy people, these are affected. And had Semakadde not issued an ultimatum to these people, we wouldn't have known about all of this. So at the end of the day, the spark of all of this is Semakadde issuing an ultimatum to these people to leave his apartment. Secondly, I've had an opportunity to listen to Yvonne mentioning and saying that her husband, or the father to her kids, is a very busy man. Which busy man cannot provide shelter to his or her children, and a mother to her children in need? Why do we need to shift the burden to Semakadde to look after the children and the mother of kids to somebody? Secondly, I want to make it clear that the president of the Uganda Law Society is not paid. He does not have a stipulated amount of salary by law. So he depends. This entirely means that he depends on stipends. He depends on actually allowances from the Uganda Law Society. And when you try and analyze the statement that was issued by this duo, because I want to imagine that by the fact that Yvonne keeps on referring to my sister, my sister, my sister, she was speaking on behalf of the two, simply suggests that she's speaking for both of them. So when you try and look at this, they are saying foreign trips, they are saying trips to USA, trips to where? Why must they benefit from the trips of the Uganda Law Society? They are not members of the Uganda Law Society. What of the members of the Uganda Law Society? Aren't they selfish? Aren't they opportunists? Having said all this, I want to say that I think the public is trying to engage into a private matter, which matter pertains between Yvonne, Cynthia, and Semakadde. We were not there when this duo was actually making their agreement or was reaching their agreement in regards to the work they were doing. So to me, I think we need, if you want to seek equity, you must come with clean hands. Yvonne must openly, or Semakadde must openly declare, that is, if they want to come into the public, what the grounds and conditions of their agreements pertained of. And lastly, as I conclude, or as I finish, I also wanted to say that relationships always have ups and downs. And once one party comes to the public, we shall always run with what one party has said to the public and not what the second party has to say. So for me, I think we are unjustly, unfairly accusing Semakadde by sweet talking or calling this accountability, which has nothing to do with us, with unfair, filthy, desperate, and untrustworthy people who have said lies not once or twice or thrice. That is what I have to say for now.
Right. So as I said, Nakato and Bavidie, because I'm an analog, are my children. But they're not children. They are actually adults, 37 years of age, 37, I think. But they're in their 30s anyway. I will not enter into their bedroom. I refuse to enter into Isaac's bedroom. The whole time I was talking about penises and vaginas, it's exactly that point. That for me, did Isaac put his penis into Nakato's vagina? Did he also put his penis into Bavidie's vagina? I don't care. Is his penis circumcised? I don't want to know. It's not my business. When the sexual liaison was being negotiated, I wasn't there. When it ended, I wasn't there. When sex has been involved, and I think for me, my question around the Uganda Law Society employment terms, the human resource engagement, is it a sexual relationship? Is it a human resource relationship? Is it a labor relationship? What is it? And I have been asking. Neither of these two persons is a lawyer, and so I don't think there are any terms of discussing Uganda Law Society employment or non-employment or whatever. But I know that many times revolutionaries have kitchen cabinets. Revolutionaries have the bar, where we go and meet over drinks and we discuss. And there are people who sit and have drinks with us. There are saloon cabinets where we go to the hair salon and the boda man and the salon, the woman who does your hair and the one who does your nails, they all sit in concert with you and you plan something that's even more vile than a coup d'etat. And so maybe these two people, although they're not lawyers, belonged to his hair salon committee, right? And clearly they had a role in the campaign. I don't know if the role in the campaign then qualifies them for employment. I don't know if the house that is written about is part of a ULS engagement, so I don't know. So when feminists in Uganda begin beating upon me for what I don't know, what I know about is a sexual relationship between my friend Isaac and maybe one, maybe both twins. I don't even know the details. I don't want to know, right? What are feminists envisioning our role in this sexual relationship, in this employment relationship? Was it even an employment relationship without a contract? Why I talk about fragility is we haven't invited ourselves to critically think about the issues they're forcing us to think about. But the walk to parliament season was an interesting season because we got at least I get introduced to the twins. And for me, again, as a person who was in exile and not at home, all I could do was support. One of the problems is that I was forced again into a conversation with Nakato and Bavidie and another person who foolishly shared my German telephone line with these twins without my permission. And these twins were talking to me about the president of Uganda, Dictator Yoweri Museveni, a man who murdered my parents, murdered my unborn baby when I was in prison. These twins were talking about the president reaching out to them. And I felt like, fuck it. Why was my German number given to these twins? Why is anybody who is talking with Museveni being given my number? Like, what risk? What risk is this friend of mine, this idiot, putting me into? And I remember being so cross, giving my German phone number to the president or women who are talking to the president. Is risking the entirety of my safety, my children, my life, every small thing I have rebuilt. And this friend of mine who is an idiot got my phone number in Germany, which can be located and has a locator, and gave it to these twins when Bavidie was forcing Nakato to go and meet the president of Uganda. Okay, this is when I first encountered them. So people were talking about going to the EU, going to USA, going to all these places. There's a conversation. where the president's number and the president's personal, I don't know, personal secretary and other numbers are floated around. And I'm forced into this conversation. As a feminist, I listen and I give advice. And in the time of council, Cynthia was opposed to meeting Yoweri Museveni. Babidia wanted to meet Yoweri Museveni so much. Babidia badly wanted to meet Yoweri Museveni. I advised against it. I asked about the logics. I asked about the security. I asked about the advantages and the disadvantages. I advised against it. Then I asked, what would you benefit? What would Museveni give you that is worth selling your soul for? And then I got to understand a little bit about these twins. They are different in character. They may be identical, but they're very similar to my own twins. But beyond that engagement with the president of Yoweri Museveni, I've never had any private engagement with the twins. So, Solomon, when you say that they are liars, they are dishonest, they are this, they are that, I don't have the evidence. You have said you are private to the emails they sent to the EU. Okay, perhaps you are. But again, as a feminist thinker, comrade, you said you're a feminist. Solomon, what is our role as the Ugandan feminist movement in this history, this recent history of online protests, where rightly so, Yvonne, maybe less, but Cynthia, or maybe jointly, they were part of the initial genesis of March to Parliament. They were never acknowledged. In fact, they were sidelined by many of us who hopped onto March to Parliament a lot after their idea had been birthed. Organizations took over their idea. Organizations threw them out. Eventually, they were sidelined. They were thrown out of a movement they birthed. But again, for me, as Stella Nyanzi, the question is, these feminists who are shitting on me and putting shit on my name, what is their expectation of me as a radical queer feminist in this moment? When Babidi, after all that history, then brings us into the current moment, where she talks about eviction from a house. And is it our duty then to blame her? But blame her for what? You know, Isaac, I don't know. You're sort of saying, why is it these two people that are always facing the brunt of criticism? It's an important question. You're talking about character. What do I know about them to even talk about their character? Apart from what has been reported to me, all I've heard really is what they said in Twitter spaces and that private phone call that I really detested, but it went on and on and on and on for a long time. If Babidia doesn't have money for rent today, it means perhaps they listened to my advice and they didn't go to Yoweri Museveni. But who knows? Maybe they did and they squandered the money. I don't know. So in terms of judging their character, Stella Nyanzi is sitting in a small house in Bavaria. What is the expectation of these feminists who are lambasting me? So, Solomon, I see your hand is up. But when you were speaking, I saw Ashana multiply giving you a down thumb. I will allow Ashana to speak. And then, Solomon, you might want to give a rejoinder. And then after you do so, maybe Marge will come on because Marge has also come to the space.
Hi, Stella. Can you hear me?
Yes, but maybe speak a little louder.
You'll excuse me. I haven't slept in like 2 days now. So thank you for this space. In fact, I came to make like 2 points, but now more information has been shared and I will have to like give a bit of context. So one, for the feminists who have critique of Stella's feminism, and you know that Stella and I are friends, and instead of going to Stella, you want to come to me, you want to burden me with Stella this, Stella that. Please, Stella and I do not agree on everything. I am my own individual. My feminist politics is different from hers, and my friendship with her is none of anyone's business. I said this on the other space where someone else came to my DMs and they were trying to silence me from sharing my own experiences, saying it is Stella who is influencing you. So I want to make it clear that Stella does not influence anything that I do. So do not try to drag my friendship, my private relations with her or anyone into your public critique of her as an intellectual or as whatever. So I wanted to make that clear. Moving on to the second point. Although Semakadde comes out and says this is a private affair, I am busy minding my business. And this man who cannot handle his private affairs, he comes to me. And I'm the one who came and called him out and Yvonne. And I said, you guys fix your mess, because I was not there when these people got into whatever they got into. I did 2 threads. I even did a space where actually most feminists were roasting me on my own space, saying that I'm calling it feminist solidarity and trying to diminish it, but it was my space. And I did whatever contribution I had to do and left it there. On the issue of Semakadde, he says it's a private affair. If it was private, he would have kept some of us out of his private affairs. So everything I had to say about his issue, it is on my timeline. There are 2 important threads. The one that moved so fast was the one where I called out Yvonne, but I called out both 2 individuals. I had distanced myself from Semakadde for different reasons. And here I was being dragged into some things I have no idea about. So I wanted to state this on the space. Thirdly, Solomon, you are saying too much about people I don't think you've met. okay, I've also not met Yvonne and Cynthia, and I'm not going to speak for them. But I'm going to share just a few things to give a bit of context, because you're also throwing allegations here. You can judge their character, you can do whatever, but things to do with EU this, EU that. Maybe one day we shall have that space where the truth shall come out. I'm not being the devil's advocate here. But in my offering feminist solidarity, I have been behind the scenes. And I would even confess that I'm the foolish friend who dragged Stella into saying, please, Stella, can you try to talk to these people and tell them that they should not meet Museveni? Because they called me. They could have called anyone else. They could have done whatever. Yes, that conversation was there. I talked to them. There was someone else who was telling them, no, you consider going. I told them, if you ever even think of going, I risked my security. I risked Stella's security. And I almost lost a friend because I actually used the access I had to her to just say, I am actually supporting these people from behind closed doors. They came to me. This is what I have been doing so far. I did not owe them any of that, but people judged them. And it wasn't my place to be the devil's advocate, like I said. But that whole march to Parliament, that whatever, I even wrote an article stemming from all these things that you guys just jumped on and you keep judging. I wish one day we shall have the space where we talk about the truth. And so Yvonne and Cynthia have made mistakes. They have made very many stupid mistakes. I have cut contact several times and I've said, guys, I cannot be part of your issues anymore. I also have my cross to carry. But for some reasons I can't even explain, I keep saying this is me offering feminist solidarity, because they got into the activism space. They have come from different backgrounds. Those of us who joined when we were students and were baptized by fire, I found it important for me to keep sharing, because they came to me when they were organizing with the people they started with. You guys keep talking about they went to EU, this and that. The people that went with them, the people that were faces of certain organizations, are the ones who are here calling them scammers, calling them whatever. I will not share everything. But you are wrong about so many things, and it is your opinion. But please, let's not try to drop so many names here and speak for these people who are not here. They came to my space, the space I created where I was going to blast Semakadde and Yvonne, because for heaven's sake, these people drag me in their issues. Semakadde says it's a private matter, and this is where I want feminists to separate me, my politics, from Stella's politics. Stella is my friend. You cannot change that about us. You cannot really try to get between us. But me and Stella do not always agree. So you have critiques of Stella. Do not try to come to me to get certain information out of me. You know her handle. Go and tag her. Go and call out Stella. But do not come to me and say, Ashana, your friend. Please respect boundaries. I usually come on these streets. Sometimes I'm compelled to talk, but I usually just either mute conversations I don't want to be part of. And that doesn't mean that I don't have what to say. Sometimes I have what to say, but I just look on and keep quiet. So in the matter of Semakadde and Yvonne, I sent Semakadde back to the corner where he was, because this is someone who comes and says it's a private matter, but actually it's not a private matter. He's the one who brought these things to some of us who were not there when they were doing their business. Even after all the background support, because Yvonne and Cynthia, yes, they have done very many mistakes. They have fucked up several times. They have burned bridges. But people in this space, in this activism space, by the space I mean activism space, have used them at the time they wanted to use them, and then discarded them, and then come to Twitter to be the ones to troll. So when you talk of equity and clean hands, we need to have a conversation right from the march to Parliament, because whereas everyone has been castigating them, people were actually roasting me. But why have you been defending them? I've never come to public to defend Yvonne and Cynthia, but all I could say whenever they were being roasted is, guys, please extend some grace to these people. I know we are exhausted. Organizing is hard. Please extend some grace. Certain things you do not know. So I'm not going to repeat myself. I haven't slept from the time I did a space. But I want to emphasize 3 points. 1, feminists, politicians, whoever has issues with Stella, please deal with her directly, or tag her, or do whatever. Do not try to exploit or take advantage of my friendship and try to come to me with issues that are meant for Stella. Please do that. Respect that boundary. For some reason, you want to come to me, so Ashana, Stella has posted this. Do I run her account? Do you think I'm happy? We are in 2 different places. So my friendship with Stella has nothing to do with her politics as a feminist, has nothing to do with my feminist politics. So do not try to bundle me up with her. The same thing applies to when you are having issues, or it has happened even with all these comrades. Something comes up and then everyone is like, oh, Ashana, so we saw you with this person. Guys, deal with the issues. Ask for my opinion. Ask about anything, but do not try to bundle me and bundle me up with people, because respect boundaries. So I came on this space to just talk about the fact that I was dragged. Yes, the people who came to my space and they were mentioning, oh, Stella this, oh, Stella that. I did not make that space for Stella. I had made that space specifically to address Yvonne and Semakadde, because for reasons I do not understand, this man decided to put me in his issues. And he was even blaming me for Cynthia, who left, because Cynthia left when she did not get a contract. I've been there in the background, and I had chosen to stay there, and I had even cut ties with certain people for my own peace of mind. I did not, at one point, when I have always created boundaries and told them, okay, today I can't deal with this. So Semakadde coming and saying it's a private affair, it's a lie. it's not a private affair because he tried to drag some of us. That's what got some of us coming and doing spaces where we're even roasted and whatever mission we had for the space. But I did 2 threads. You can go through my timeline. You'll get a bit of context. With that said and done, lastly, about Yvonne and Cynthia. I again engaged with them because when Semakadde dragged me in this and I called him out because he had crossed the red line in my books, there was a red line that he crossed, and I even cut contact. And when he says it's a private affair, you people, whatever, why was he trying to, well, I already did my part on that, and I'll leave it at that. So for Yvonne and Cynthia, before we actually come and say this and that, now we understand, stop being unfair to these women. I know you are angry. I know you have every right to critique them and whatever. After me doing a space, they came to that space. I did not even expect them because I had blasted one of them. I had told her to fix her issues with the man in question. I had told the man the same thing. But they came to that space. They received the fire. They received whatever. And I have barely slept because I have been on call for people I have been angry about and saying, guys, I have done my part. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. But still, I have, in my, this is now my feminist politics and doing solidarity. I have been in touch with them. We've talked. We've shouted at each other. I've told them, okay, guys, I'm done with you. I don't want to deal with your issues. Then something comes up. And right now, they are not active. They might just be here reposting things or maybe listening anonymously. But they asked that they need space and they're going to be off these streets for some time. I'm sure you have so many questions and whatever. When they are ready, they'll come and address that. So I do not want us to make this space about Yvonne and Cynthia. There are so many. Stella actually created the space to tell feminists to fuck off. The feminists who are telling her, your relationship with Semakadde and whatever. And I came on this space. Honestly, I've not even talked with Stella about this Semakadde issue because we are on different lines. But she created the space. She had sent me a message and said, Ashana, I'm tired of feminists ganging up on me. I said I would join the space because I wanted to make a point about not just feminists, but activists, everyone who has issues with my colleagues, my friends, and they know that I'm friends with these people. They just come to me all of a sudden expecting. I am not Stella's mouthpiece. I'm not her PA. She's not my PA. She does not influence me. We are 2 different feminists.
Shana, you've said this like 5 times. Do you want to summarize?
Oh yes. I'm tired. It's okay. I'm done.
Dr. May I kindly cut into the line?
No, because I think Solomon had put up his hand, and Ashana was responding to what Solomon was saying. So I think that, and Marge came before you. So no, you're going to wait because there are other people who are as equally important as you are who came before you. But Solomon, do you want to respond to anything Ashana has said?
Yeah.
And Ashana, for me, I just want to thank you because you are confirming that, in fact, in terms of dealing with Yvonne and Cynthia, the only time I've dealt with them is when you dragged me into that important conversation when Yoweri Museveni was calling them. And I say to them, don't go. Apart from that, I don't know these people, but Isaac is my friend. Isaac is my friend. And so these feminists who want me to go and wipe Yvonne's menstrual blood. Yvonne is an adult. She's not going to bleed onto me. If there are feminists in Uganda who want to wipe away the menstruation blood of this young lady because you think she's deserving, please go ahead. But don't bleed onto me. And when she bleeds onto you, please manage those affairs. Part of my feminist work does not include the point that was raised about contracts. How are we training young Ugandan feminists around employment and labor? I say to you at Makerere, I undressed because my labor contract was being totally disrespected and disregarded and dismissed by not just Professor Mamdani, the guru I admired, but the whole of my college, as well as the whole of the university, as well as all the professors I approached. They said, but it's Mamdani. So around labor laws and labor issues, I know the importance of having a contract. I was able to beat Makerere because Semakadde was there. He understands the Employment Act. He knows the Higher Institutions Act. He knows these things, the law that I cannot learn, will not learn, because I'm doing other things with my brain. And for me, Semakadde is a weapon that I need. He's not my friend as in a cuddly, he's a weapon that I need when I'm battling in terms of, the laws in Uganda, in terms of those things that lawyers are taught. And no one is going to take that arm away from me if they're not going to give me legal services, because he's been there for me when they were not. And then Isaac's sexual relationship. I want to go back to the feminist issues here. The point that it's private or public. Isaac's penis. I don't know if it's circumcised or not. I don't know if it has scars or not. Yvonne's vagina. I don't know what it looks like, the contours. I don't know if he put his penis in her mouth, in her vagina, between her breasts, and I don't want to know. That is why, for me, the nature of their adult sexual relationship, when it's brought into an employment relationship, suddenly I want to be very close and intimate with the details. I have Isaac's side of the story. I don't have Yvonne's side of the story. So when feminists are telling me you're coddling Isaac, what do they mean? When does Isaac's penis become my responsibility? It's not. And so the private, public domain, I think for me that the sexual, until we're talking about sex work and transactional sex, which are not even regulated in Uganda, was Badide exchanging her sexual services with Semakadde so she would get the job because she doesn't have the qualifications? What have we taught feminists in Uganda around sexual transactions, away from the moralization of Malaya Mubi? If sex work is work, and the only capital that Babiria brought to the table was her sexual capital, what rules, what laws, what policies, what principles, what values, what ethics govern that sexual relationship that is now being flagged for all feminists to come and be judged by God who knows what? I don't know what the caliber of these feminists are who are judging me and punching upon me. So Solomon, as you respond very briefly to what Ashana has said, because you had your turn already and Madge is waiting and somebody wants to cut into the line, if there's anything of value you want to say in response to Ashana, please go ahead. Otherwise, Madge will come in.
Yes, Dr. Stella, I'll respond in 3 points. One, first point is, you remember previously when we had a discussion here in Munich, I'm happy that you have made it clear that Isaac is not here in Germany. He is in Uganda, actually, for your own information, Navagereka, because I've seen you tweet about that. He's not a coward. But the point from our previous conversation, I told you, Stella, that I don't know what is happening with the activists today. The activists want to actually use the struggle to facilitate their personal needs in terms of finances. My own example, 5 years or 6 years ago, when I joined the struggle as a 19-year-old boy, I sustained severe torture from Chiraro police station, and I developed DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis, and I needed acute treatment. I did not run to any activists. My poor mother footed the bills of the hospital up to Nairobi, where I was treated from. So I told you, Stella, this, that I don't understand this. Why am I bringing out this? I want to answer Ashana. That Ashana, you might say that I don't know the people that I'm talking about, but I understand very well the character of people I'm talking about, because these are people that have had previous meetings asking for money from certain individuals within the struggle in organizational structures. I mean, who does that? Who facilitated our needs at that time? So for me, this is so selfish, because we have invested money, time in this liberation struggle. So I do not expect any activists to actually come on this table thinking that the struggle will facilitate their personal or basic needs in that regard. Moving forward, I also want to respond to the second point where you say that you want me to be fair. Ashana, I will not be fair to this group or to this duo, because in themselves, they are not fair. They are dishonest. Feminism, part of the major principles or the foundational principles of feminism is morality, integrity, dignity, dishonesty, lies, and so many other things that make this duo filthy, disqualifies them from being credible to make any allegation insofar as character is concerned, because they are dishonest to that extent. They have said one lie over the other. I'm happy that Dr. Stella, I bring out that. I didn't want to talk about the Museveni part of it, but I'm happy that you brought it out. I mean, who dares to take the entire lot as negotiating power to meet selfish interests? And when you ask why, they are saying our sibling was shot in 2020 and we want to seek justice when we meet the president. I mean, fuck that. The last point while responding to Ashana, I want to say that Dr. Stella Nyanzi, for me, I think this duo needs help. This duo needs support. I have seen members of the Back on Track campaign team on this call. And in the previous space where Ashana hosted, I did make mention that we collected money for one of the members of the Back on Track to petition to sit exams. We failed to meet the other member's bill of tuition because it was too big for us. And we did that out of comradeship and love, because they came out and said, hey, comrades, we need this. They genuinely, openly stated that we need help. They did not blackmail anybody. They did not name call or character assassinate or maliciously point at anybody, at anybody. So in that regard, Ashana, or anybody on this space, I want to say, so if we are going to talk about their contribution to the Back on Track campaign, should we call upon all the other members of the Back on Track campaign to also come and say, hey, Stella, we want our payment, we want our compensation in regards to our contribution to the space? I think it is so unfair. So them being unfair, I cannot be fair in my own analysis of the entire situation. I will say, if they need support, they should come openly and tell us we need support. We shall collect the money, we shall contribute. I've seen Justice Hunter of the call. He's capable of giving us some money, and other people on the call, and we shall help them openly, asking for support, not blackmailing anybody, or not hiding behind, Ashana, kindly maintain decorum. If you want to respond, get a pen and paper. If they want to seek any support, we shall provide that support, but not hiding behind feminism to claim victimization, because this is what they have done to Agora. This is what they have done to Jimmy Spire. This is what they have done to Godwin Toko. This is what they have done previously, not once or twice or thrice. They are ingrate, filthy duo of desperate activists. Thank you, Steph.
Okay, so Ashana, I notice your hand is up, but I'm going to ask you to just hold your fire. You are a writer. Write down those points, because I think Madge is going to come up. One of the things I'm going to ask is that we listen to each other, right? Let's listen. Tomorrow is Easter Monday. If you have work to do, maybe go and sleep. You'll come back to the space, or you can write comments. But I think for me, that let's listen to each other. Let's tussle. One of the things I love about my feminist friends is even when we don't agree, we sit around food. There's no food online, and we talk about the difficult things. That is what I'm known for. So Ashana, hold your fire. There was a question that I think I was hoping somebody would respond to that hasn't been responded to as yet. It's in line with my question around Yvonne says, or has now reduced Isaac to an abuser, but she carried her 15-year-old daughter together with 2 other children, girls, all girls, into the house of a man she says is an abuser, a man she was having sex with. Okay? But we are blaming the man. We are blaming the man. What sort of feminists are we if we're not going to take cognizance of the fact that a mother to 3 children, including a 15-year-old who could be menstruating, was carried by that mother into the home of a man she's now saying is an abuser. And her consorts are calling the same man an abuser. But we are failing to take responsibility as feminists. And Solomon, you asked the question, why should Semakadde father children? Why is it Semakadde's responsibility to father, to shelter the children of the woman he's sleeping with, the woman he parades around as one of the faces of Back on Track? That's an important question. But remember, I told you about what polygamous men do. I told you about my rooting within African Chiganda culturalist Moors before I become radical and queer. I'm also very much a Muganda. And I hope we get to that conversation. What do you expect a man who is fucking you to do for your children? And what do we tell women who carry the children of other men into the private space of a man they're fucking and have now reduced to an abuser? So, Madge, you asked for the microphone. It's your turn to speak. Go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I would like to really just put across a few points because it's really late on my end. I think Stella too. We're both in Germany, and so it's 1 a.m. here in the morning. So just very briefly, I live in Germany, yes, but I also come from Kenya. So you understand the East African connection that this brings about. So I have observed a lot that's going on online. So what I would request for after my observation is a separation from Isaac as a person and Isaac as the chair of the Law Society of Uganda. So why is this important? Because on the 6th of October 2024, there was an inauguration at the Law Society of Uganda. So they shared their flyer, which of course was conducted in a very orderly manner, but the results really projected all male. So it is not like they neglected the females, but there were only males on the flyer. So I went on there and used the same thing Stella was implying on, like the words, to just sensitize. And I said, oh, the flyer really smells of testosterone. What's going on here? So my objective, even using this word, was to sensitize whoever is looking and say, look, guys, there could be a structural reason as to why we didn't have females in there. We're not saying we always must have females, because as it is, objectively, there are females who actually campaigned and failed. But the president of the Law Society of Uganda came back with different approaches or different responses, which are actually shared with very senior judiciary officials in Kenya, and they were very shocked because he did not acknowledge what the problem was. I think, of course, you cannot acknowledge it very quickly. Sometimes when you just read something, but this is something that I was trying to point out, but the reaction from him, not as a person, but in the position of the Law Society of Kenya, failed to really, acknowledge the societal, problem that may be present. So afterwards, there was, of course, Martha Karua, who's also somebody who's very familiar to me, was coming across to help Biscure also as a lawyer. And so she posted, thanking him for having really attained, a license for her. And then I went on again and said, hey, Martha, and when this is done, we need to really find out what's going on with the situation. And I still use the word testosterone. And he came on, Stella, abused me. At that point, the previous Law Society president, Nelson Harvey, brought in another insult by him being Kenyan and knowing the impact. He has since deleted his comment. So really, I'm just sharing this just to highlight the issues that might be mixed up here. So there's the person, and when the person has even sexual relations with the people they want to do those things with, and they have there's a consent, this is actually nobody's problem. But I'm talking about this position that really needs also to be respected, because it is important in the society. So those are things that are actually a problem. I pointed them out. I will keep pointing it out also to Martha Karua. If she wants to be a presidential candidate in Kenya, she must take note of that, and she will, because later she came in and made a statement about it at a different occasion. Second point is there seem to be, unfortunately, a lot of infighting going on, these activist group, the other activist group, and I just have a feeling that this is not going to help, because whereas we have also problems in Kenya, I can go back to Kenya anytime. I can fly in from Frankfurt to Nairobi and come back. Kenya has become an abduction hub, yes, but the situation is not as dire as it is in Uganda. So the question is, why are you guys really discussing sexual things online? I mean, it's really just, I cannot hear it anymore. And I'm beginning to wonder, because most of the things, and if you listen to these things, you hear, we were in Mombasa, we were in Nairobi. So I'm like, okay, you guys, are you also just using our countries for all the dramas and things like that? So really, I would like to, and I hope, I don't want to come across like I'm lecturing anybody, but really, I request for, just being objective and fighting for the struggle, the liberation of Uganda, and not the real all the time. It's always just it's not easy to look or listen to, and these are things that are strengthening Museveni. Well, I'm here. This is new information that I just had in this space. I didn't know it. Of course, Museveni has to contact the girls. I would if I was a dictator. So, but what are we doing? Some are going to use the information and say, "Oh yeah, they were contacted like this." No, that is what he must do. No, and we have a very dire situation whereby the president of Kenya is supporting Uganda. The president of Tanzania is a dictator. It's even becoming worse than Museveni. So how are we people going to liberate Uganda if we're still really all the time discussing personal relationships online? That's really just something I wanted to point out on there, that it's not very helpful. And now finally, we had a space, I think Saturday, now it's already Monday, with Iran Kizer, who was imprisoned and just released, I think weeks ago. And some of the aspects that were coming up in the space was that the systems in Uganda are mostly captured, including the Law Society of Uganda. So whereas I do not like the language that Isaac is using, not as a person, but as the president of the Law Society of Uganda, there's another issue coming up, whereas the dictator himself, and this is why some of you are saying he's on the run, of course he has to go for him. So while we are discussing other things, the dictator is busy really just destroying all the structures you have. The academia has been silenced. And in the space yesterday, Stella, you said you were busy with your children. I think this is why you didn't attend, because the birthday has a priority. There was Dr. Mkawasi in the US mentioned Stella as an example. It's like, we need scholars like Stella. We need people to fight back. So there's a huge fight to be brought out there with Uganda, because otherwise I could tell you free of charge, and this is something that many people do not want to tell. Kenya has already endorsed Mwozi. How did they do it? They did it when Raila was going out there to ask for the AU position, and so said, Uganda is going to support. But at what cost was Uganda supporting? Uganda is only supporting Kenya when Kenya cannot speak about the transition of power from, Museveni to Mwozi. And these are things that are going to affect the whole of East Africa. It looks like only a Ugandan problem, but it's not. So just to finalize, so that other speakers may speak, because I'm really, really also tired, just like you guys are. And if there are points that I didn't put across, I'll put them on the comment section. And I'll also put Isaac's, or let me not call him Isaac in this case, because then let me go official or professional and say I'll put the president of the Law Society's insult online on the comment section there, so that you guys can really just see what I'm talking about. And this is not good. And some of you were saying, okay, well, he's not in Germany. I wish he was in Germany so that I can sue him. So he knows you cannot abuse somebody and get away with it. Now, how the hell? We know that, insults, like Stella was saying, sometimes use strong words. You can use them culturally to bring change. But a president of the Law Society of Kenya cannot go and call people a cunt online. And he was called out for this, Stella. Really, I understand, but it's difficult. And I remember on that day, I tagged you onto a post, Stella, and I told you, look, the policies of Germany at this point are pro-females. So we cannot have the Law Society of Kenya, of Uganda, calling a woman a cunt online. So whatever he's running, wherever he's running, but he comes to Germany, those things are going to get back to him, So, but then, just to close, please, let's really just work together. Let's try to make, East Africa better. And we're hoping that Uganda will rise. It's the Pearl of Africa, as they call it. Let's do that. Let's not have more spaces talking about individuals. Museveni is happy. He doesn't need to do anything. You guys are involuntarily working for him. So yes, that having been said, I thank you so much for the opportunity. I'll put those comments or screenshots on the comment section, and I'll also really just share also the link to the space we did yesterday with Iran, so that you can check on what he said there and what a few people also said. Thanks again, Stella, for the opportunity, and back to you.
Right. Well, thank you, Madge. I agree with you. It's 1 o'clock in Germany. It's 2 o'clock in Uganda. It's 18 past 2 o'clock in Uganda. So it's even later in Uganda than it is for us. I mean, your points around separation of Isaac as person versus Isaac as president is important. I think for me, Isaac, this space is really about me because of these fragile feminists who are foolishly firing at me. So it's very personal. My relationship with Isaac is personal. I don't relate with him as the president of Uganda Law Society. And so the feminists who are asking me why I'm supporting Isaac for the presidency, I don't have a vote. But he's my friend, and he's contesting against an NRM member and a Christian who stepped down for him. Definitely, I'll support him in his campaign, but I don't have a vote. So the Christian lawyers and the feminist lawyers and all the other lawyers who don't like Isaac's presidency work on the constituency and ensure that they vote somebody else. And I think the point you make is very good. The Black Native, I will block you if you don't. Yes, the Black Native, please shut your microphone. And so for me, people who are questioning me because of my personal relationship with Isaac is my friend. I will not unfriend him in a moment when he's a fugitive. I've been told he's gone back to Uganda. I will not unfriend him because I have a long history with Isaac. There's a woman who said she tried to unfather her father because he's an abuser. Good luck to her with that. For me, I'm not going to unfriend Isaac Because again, in this equation of Yvonne, I don't know if she did not abuse him. You know, they had a sexual relationship. She wants to be paid because of their sexual relationship. I don't know if that is what sexual exploitation. What, apart from her sexual services, what was she bringing to the table at the Uganda Law Society or the Radical New Bar? And as I said, Isaac may be a problem. Is that my problem? Is that a feminist problem? Is that a ULS problem? I mean, as feminists continue punching, are they punching at me because of my private relationship with Isaac? Isaac is my counsel, he's my lawyer, he's my advocate. And on the issue around language, Marge, you know, one of the things that a person could do is to apologize because you were called a cunt, but I carry a cunt. I am a cunt. I am a vagina. I embrace language to fight. I also embrace language as a shield for myself. I cannot be diminished, discredited. Nothing is taken away from me by someone saying I'm a cunt. And I have raised myself to the level where men cannot reduce me simply because they call me a cunt. They came from cunts, they fuck cunts, they love cunts, they bath through cunts. And for me, as a Nalongo in my culture, cunt is a word we use liberally. We call it cunt, we call it vagina, we call it pussy, we call it mana, we call it all sorts of words in our local language, in English, but also in colloquialism, right? And so I understand about the impossibility of this use of language to travel across culture, to travel across geographies, to also travel across ideologies, right? But I root myself squarely in that freedom of expression movement that says if you need to jail me because I've used a word you don't like, go ahead and jail me, irrespective of where I am. And so I identify squarely with Isaac when we use words as weapons. Now, perhaps the problem is that he fired at you unnecessarily. You are an ally working with him. You are an ally also working with a fighter who is fighting, and maybe your hairs got stuck in the crossfire. I don't know what the situation was, but coming from Uganda, where you say we talk about sex all the time, one of the ways we've fashioned our fight against fascists and dictators is through these alternative means of combat, because we don't have guns, but we shall insult them. And maybe Isaac, in moments of fear, when he's fleeing from the enemy, he has now, you know, taken on to fighting even people who are not his enemy. And I think there's a lot of pain that people are bearing. I will not apologize on his behalf because I'm not his mother, I'm not his secretary, I'm not his personal assistant. He must take responsibility for his relationships, for the work he's doing with the way he's deploying words, right? I don't know what gives him license to do that, but I know why, for example, I would call another woman a cunt, and why, for example, I would identify as a cunt without a problem. So again, I'm not justifying what Isaac does. I'm just saying how these salient issues you've highlighted work for me as a Ugandan currently located in exile, but very much with the heart of Uganda. The last point about why do Ugandans talk about sex all the time? Our government has used homosexuality, sex work, abortion to fight in ways we can't even begin to identify because we're so scared. We are frigid. We are prudish. We can't talk about sex because sex has been removed away from the public domain. And I think for me that is a bad colonial legacy we inherited. The idea that sex cannot be used in public discourse as a method of engaging the political terrain is terrible. It's terrible. It's bad civilization. I think that for me as a feminist, therefore, I encourage the use of the power within the sexual terrain to address particularly conservative African modes of oppressive domination. And that includes Dictator Yoweri Museveni. He has used homosexuality as his biggest trump card. When faced with situations that he can't handle, he pulls out the homosexuals. And if we can't use sexuality to fight back, we are failing to engage on our own terms. So I'm not justifying, again, why Ugandans use and talk about sex all the time. But I think that there's a lot of power in the sexual terrain as a mode of engaging forms of abusive power, but also forms of liberatory feminist power. I will not go on and on and on. Marge, your hand is up.
Yes,
So
yes.
hand was up.
Just
Yes.
clarification. I just want to
Yes.
clarify that the insult or the use of the word cunt was not directed to me. It was directed to a fellow activist, a fellow Ugandan activist. Yeah. So, but that's online there. But the insult that was directed to me, I have put on the comment section. I'm not expecting any apology or you to. I wouldn't. You know, it's not your issue. You know, I was just trying to highlight why it is problematic, especially for a law society president, and that's why our previous law society president has deleted the comment where he came in to join. If Isaac had put that comment towards me, I would have come for him. And still, I don't come for people on spaces. I come for them legally. You know. So, and thank God we all live in Germany. That's what I was saying. If he ever comes to Germany and he does any other things, I just need to inform my lawyer, right? You know, so I don't need anyone to fight for me. If I want to fight, I will fight him. I just want to really that statement. Whereas you explain where this is coming from, and I understand, it's actually problematic because if you come over here and you want to even help Ugandans back home, and then they Google you. Let me use an example of a man here. Let me use Kizito. I think that's a male name. And then they Google you. They want to give you an EU job in Brussels. And then they find you calling people a cunt online. No, it's not going to work for you. But anyway, let me not take a lot of time. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Continue with the struggle. Do not get distracted by the dictator because the people that these scandals are, you know, having the scandals all the time, they also have their strong sides. So anytime they're having these scandals, their weak sides actually helps the dictator. You know, like, no, let's have a beating on that. What are they saying? Let me call let me give them the money. They'll give the money. They even call people here in Germany. And some of them who are here, they're on both sides getting money from that very regime back home there. So guys, thanks again and good night. Back to you, Stella.
Right. So, Marge, I wish there were more Ugandan feminists who could sue Isaac. You know, like if Isaac has committed a crime, huh? Instead of those feminists punching on me because he's my friend and I hosted him, I think that they should sue him. You know, I would sue Isaac. If there was an issue that needed me to take him to court, I wouldn't come and sit on Marge's back and punch upon Marge. I would sue the fucking daylights out of Isaac. But yes, your point has been taken. Ashana, you were raising your hand. I don't know if you still want to speak. After Marge had spoken, you clapped your hands. There's a queue.
Oh, yes.
And people are dropping off people who wanted to speak are dropping off. Do you still want to speak? Are you still
Yes.
justifying something?
Yes, and I will then drop off as a speaker. Again, Solomon, and I don't expect a response from you, please. For the sake of you keep dropping names, oh, she did this and this to this and these people. There are so many spaces we actually need to have to discuss all these things. So I'm going to say that as someone who has spoken to Yvonne and Cynthia, even after being the one who beat them publicly and called out Isaac for trying to drag me in things that are none of my business, I really pray that we respect their need for. They are off the space, right? No, the space is right now, and they said they need time to reflect and everything, and they will come to the public to answer these questions. Solomon, you cannot start saying if they want money, we shall fundraise for them. That is disrespectful. One, you call them liars and whatever, that is your opinion. But do not start saying we can fundraise them for them, this and that. Respect the fact that the people they have talked to, they have said they want their space. And I'm not justifying anything they did because I'm the one who came and did two threads to expose Semakadde and Yvonne because they dragged me in their issues. But please do not start saying I will do this for them after you are trashing